I think the biggest question that I see on Facebook with other detailers is, especially like with the lab world, how do you test durability on products? Like they make these claims that say up to 6 months or up to 3 years, 5 years. And the best that I could like have someone explain it to me is like, obviously you can't simulate road film for a crab, all these things that are being exposed. Sometimes someone explained it to me that you're just kind of how many car washes a vehicle could go through within a calendar year, multiply that times, 12 months, that's kind of where you guys come up with that standard. So for you guys, what is your standards to determine durability?
We do a variety of testing there. For like durability, we'll put it on a car part and put it on the roof, and it's in the sun and it's in the weather. It's real world. Now it's not controlled, but it's the real world. We put it on our own cars and we track them and we take pictures.
Hopefully it doesn't destroy it.
No, we're not destroying any cars. We're only making them better. We're only making them better.
Poor Jeff's rust buckets because they're massive.
So
that's what the insurance, of course.
So we put it on cars in the parking lot. And then there are tests that you can do that are kind of those controlled conditions. We don't have some of this equipment here, but we have relationships with testing facilities throughout the country. So we can do any test and you can send it to them and they can simulate conditions, and it's like they have a salt water bath or whatever, cycling temperature that they put it in, and they'll give you feedback as well. So we get the third-party validation. We do our own testing here and on the roof. And now this isn't part of the stability, but we're fortunate. We have Horsepower Enterprises. I don't know if you know of Horsepower, but they're a professional restoration company that's owned by Rob Eklund, who owns Stoner as well. So we quite often will be up at their labs giving the products to the guys who are professional restoration experts, and they give us feedback on how they work, and they know.
But you have to really be at some level of production before you're putting it on a restoration.
Oh, absolutely,
product,
absolutely. We like I said, it's rapid prototyping to get a product out there, but it's a good product. It's a viable product.
And once you guys develop, you patent your own products, and then from there, like, when do you determine, let's update the formula? Like, if it's good, like invisible glass. Have you ever done an update to invisible glass?
Yes. And if I can digress a little bit, it's part of our quality history here. And I don't know if the guys talked to you about us winning the Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award. We did that. Kind of the core of that is continuous improvement, a little better every day. And we take that approach with our products. We're constantly taking feedback. Now, if you're telling us, invisible glass is great, but can it this? Then it's like, okay, we've got a problem we can solve. Let's make it better. So we're continually improving, but it's with the goal of solving a problem. A lot of times, John Goldbach, John Crothers, any of the guys will come up with an idea on their own.
Yeah.
If we make this improvement to that product, that's better. And that's how we do the improvement. But a lot of times it's just from feedback from you guys. So that's how we know is when we're getting reviews that there's a problem with our product. And, we believe we have very high performing products, and that's because we take those reviews very seriously. We track them, and when we get a couple, it's like, okay, we got a problem we can solve here to make a better product. And then we start to come up with that formulation.
Because, our Trim Shine product, which people love, it's probably, again, one of our best products we have. But the guys found a way, like there's more durable resin. So what's the one issue everybody has with coatings? They don't last as long as we want them to last forever, right?
Yeah.
Well, they're never going to last forever, but can we make our product last more? Because that will make a lot more people happier, right? They already love the product. How do we make them love it more? Make it more durable. So that's kind of things we're doing with our hybrid Trim Shine right now, is making it more durable.
Yeah. Now,
and as I said, we have connections with guys that supply us with the chemicals, and they're constantly coming up with new things. And we tell them, look, we believe it's the fast eat the slow, not the big eat the small. So come to us. We'll give you quick feedback. So they do. We're right on the cutting edge. Hey, we have a material that's a resin that we believe is more durable, or we have this that we think makes a better coating. We get that pretty quickly. We test it out very quickly and get that into a product if it's true. So we give them feedback. So it's we work with the customers, we work with our suppliers, and it's a whole everybody's connected.
I had 2 questions from viewers.
Sure.
One in particular, the bug and tar remover.
Mhm.
They're apparently saying that it's really good at removing old tire coatings. Is it safe for tires?
To put it on tires?
Yeah, to remove old tire coatings. I've actually had
A lot
to
of
use
people-
lacquer thinner or mineral spirits to remove old tire coatings.
We keep hearing that from lots of people,
Yeah.
so.
That was the first I
It
heard
must be true, but I think we have a wheel and tire cleaner that
Yeah.
I think we think is probably a better product for that.
Okay,
Then-
to remove a coating.
Yeah. I would say the honest answer is we've never tested it to get coatings off tires, but that's not unusual for people to find new uses for a product.
Yeah.
So when we start hearing that, that's probably going to get on the project list. Like, we should test that.
Evaluate
Yeah,
that.
maybe-
You know, and the
maybe
things that
we'll
we
miss-
would be interested in, you know, is apply it to a rag, wipe it on, wipe it off. You're,
Yeah.
It's going to work well. If you're saturating your tire, because it's going to have some things that are going to dissolve some things in the tire.
Yeah.
So extended use, that long-term effect might be more of a concern.
Are taking into consideration propellants
Uh-huh.
and spray patterns, does that affect things?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And does that affect the formulas?
Yes. Different propellants interact differently with different ingredients, and they give you different spray properties and characteristics. So there's a balance between knowing what propellant and how forceful it'll come out of the can. As John said, you can control to some degree whether it'll fan out a lot or be direct with the propellant, as well as the valve and the actuator. So propellants are very important. Yeah.
So invisible glasses, you're the one that you probably says has most science, like, you know, behind it. Formula is obviously going to be different with a propellant for a aerosol can versus the trigger sprayer.
Right.
Which would you think is going to work better? Like, do you have a favorite?
That's a great question.
Which one of your child do you like the best? Right? You got 2 kids. Which one do you love the best? And, you know, I always say, you know,
It depends on the day and how they're acting. Just kidding.
well, it's almost like it depends what I'm cleaning. You know, if I'm cleaning a really big glass surface, I mean, the trigger bottle seems to get a lot more quantity out on that, but, you know, like a windshield, I like the aerosol, but there's people internally, like if we started out just with an aerosol, and the reason we got it triggered is we found out there was people here, we sold 5-gallon buckets, they were making their own trigger bottles of invisible glass. We're like, you know what? There's the aerosol users in the company have like not opened their eyes enough to realize, hey, there are people that just prefer trigger bottles.
Well,
So-
I think for residential use,
Yeah.
the trigger
Yep.
works
It's a
better. Like my
preference.
mom swears by that stuff for her glass stove top. Like
Yeah.
she will get a glass scraper and the invisible spray, and it doesn't have as much like foam residue. But like for vehicles, I love the foam because then I don't have liquid dripping down the doors into the
It's a
electrical
different
components.
application
Yeah.
method, you know.
I think waffle weeds are good for general glass cleaning.
Uh-huh.
You know, if you're doing a multi-step glass, I mean, a glass polishing microfiber, which are, how would you best describe those, John? They're not.
More like a smooth satin.
Yeah,
They're like a
smoother
yeah.
satin.
Yeah.
So you're satin.
Yeah, that's for like a finishing of the glass. So I've taken off the big stuff, and I think that's what you want to do is like attack that glass, get off the big stuff, and especially if somebody's not really cleaning their glass very often.
Yeah.
You probably get some everyday drivers like that.
Yeah.
Get it cleaned pretty well, almost 90% there. Then maybe get a glass polishing just to kind of do that last step to get those last streaks out. And don't leave any glass cleaner anywhere on that windshield because, you know, the definition of a streak is leaving some glass cleaner there. It dries, you know, maybe that could leave the streak the way it is, you know. And that's why the tool is so important because we found people when they're cleaning their windshield, they were reaching in, and because it's so hard and we're not always as flexible as we want to be, we're not really cleaning the whole windshield. We're leaving spots where the glass cleaner is still on, or we didn't even touch it with our microfiber, or maybe we're crumpling the microfiber and there's spaces we're leaving. We're not really cleaning. So that flat surface of the reach and clean tool prevents a lot of those errors you might make without it. I think, you know, people always ask me, do you always use a reach and clean tool when you clean your windshield? Not always, but if I'm going to do it right, I do use it.
Yeah.
It's great to use the microfibers and everything, but even paper towels, but basic paper towels. You don't want to dye. You don't want any fabric softeners in your
So you're
cloth.
saying the blue shop towels that everyone swears by
you
don't
want
do?
to keep it as basic as you can,
Okay.
and that gives you your best clean glass.
Towels are important.
Very important.
If you
Very
grab
important.
something that has some residue on it, it doesn't matter how great the glass cleaner is. It's definitely a team effort. You got to have a great microfiber and have a great glass cleaner.
What about newspaper?
Yeah, newspapers. I mean, that's the old school way to do it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
how is it that we're saying residue, don't leave anything with residue, and I'm like, 6 months ago, like I can read, like,
Newspapers aren't my go-to, but I've done it.
how is it
again
that
where it's like,
newspapers
I'm in a
work
rush.
so
That's
well?
one of those old school things,
Something about that paper, right?
Yeah,
Like,
it's
very
it's
grippy.
paper.
You guys should
Where's
come
my
up
kid?
with a printless newspaper that people can use for,
Packaging paper.
Just
I wonder
like,
how
go
that
to the
works.
They're not as
newspaper
old as me.
people.
See, my kids would say,
The stuff
Dad,
we-
who reads a newspaper?
Who has a newspaper? Yeah.
My kids
What's
have
a
never
newspaper?
seen a newspaper.
Yeah, Tracy, the old packaging paper.
Yeah,
When we moved away
Wow.
from
Yeah.
Okay, someone should market that, the
Yeah.
printless newspaper that detailers can use
There
for
you go.
glass.
we call it.
That was my idea.
We'll give you credit. We'll give you credit.
That's
on
a
that.
great idea.
Well,
I'm
and
pretty sure L&P could, provide their, yeah, I mean, as far as new products,
Mhm.
they were saying that you got some cool stuff coming down the pipe as far as,
Yeah.
like, hybrid products.
Yeah.
Are they going to be a hybrid, like, wax SiO2 or PTFE, or do you guys do anything like that?
We're ceramics seem to be the hot thing, so we're trying to make things more durable. So we have a hybrid ceramic we're coming out with. We have a ceramic glass that we're coming out with, all to increase that durability.
Is that different than the ceramic glass coating, or is that
No,
a different?
that's a ceramic.
That is the product.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, and the new one, so
Yeah.
I don't know if you used our cleaning repel.
Yes, I love that stuff. It does a really good job with no streaks.
Correct.
Yeah.
So the next one we're making, it's some kind of like toeing the line between the ceramic coating and the original cleaner repel.
Okay.
So we're calling this like an IG hybrid, and so it's not as easy to use as cleaner repel,
Okay.
but it's much more durable, and the beads are pretty impressive.
Will it be a streak free?
It's more of like a polish on, polish off. So
Oh, cool.
cleaner repel, like you almost can't tell that there's a difference between
Yeah.
invisible glass until it rains, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's
Yeah.
my windshield. This, because there's a lot more solids in it, so
Yeah.
you got to polish it on, let it set, and then buff it off.
Okay.
But it's a lot more durable, but probably easier to use or less intimidating than a true ceramic.
Is it going to be similar in experience to like your glass stripper? How you kind of apply that?
A little bit.
Okay.
A lot easier than that. I mean,
Easier than
not
that.
the glass stripper's not hard, but I think
No, that was.
You don't need the like the elbow grease,
Okay.
but like you'll see like your whole windshield is kind of hazy and
Okay.
nasty, and then you buff
But
it
then
off.
what's the durability that you guys are going to expect from that?
I mean, again, it's tough because windshield wipers are brutal on coatings. It just constantly wears on them.
If they weren't using their wipers.
yeah.
It's
3
probably
months
it's probably
plus.
4 months, 4
That's
months.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, glass parenting is 3
Yeah.
months, and that's a
Yeah.
full coating.
Yeah.
And clean repel, what is the durability on that? Like, is it more of a maintenance, like 1 or 2
A couple weeks.
We
Yeah.
like some
Okay.
weeks, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And I don't know if you know about it or a plug. We make a windshield washer additive that's a clean and repel.
I didn't know
and
that,
If you put
but now
that
I
into the if you put that into the washer fluid and they just use their washers, you don't really have to use your. It's remarkable how little you have to use your wipers. I've used that product a lot, and you'll be driving down the road, and everything's just, and you don't even realize it's raining. You're not even thinking about it. You're not even thinking to turn your wipers on because you just. But if you do turn it on, you get a little bit of that, redeposited on there, and then it just beads and goes
So
right
one
off.
little bottle.
It's a.
Is that a concentrate and a substitute of having to buy the big gallon jugs?
Yep.
And you just can, if you have something that already has that in there, do you just dump it in there?
You can put in a full reservoir, or have it. What I would do if you're wait till you're almost out of it, put your washer fluid in there, add one of these, one per reservoir. Or actually, what I do, if I buy a washer fluid, I'll put it into that gallon jug.
Okay.
Shake it up, and then I'll, because I typically don't use a whole gallon. I'm going around, I fill mine up, my kids' cars, my
Yeah.
wife's car.
You don't
So,
want too heavy of a dilution.
Yeah, I don't want to get it too
Okay,
heavily
that's a
diluted.
good tip.
That's the easy way
I
to
can make
kind
an
of
assumption
keep it right.
and say science is always advancing, and things like that. Like,
Sure.
what are some of the most exciting things that you guys see on the horizon as far as within the detailing industry? Or things that are you're
That
like,
is a great
That's a
question.
great question.
It's probably in some of these resins that are. It was always either hard work to make super hard coating, super expensive, super labor intensive. One of those things or all of them. You can make top quality products with a small amount of material that really, really bonds to automotive surfaces that I think past couple years we've never seen that kind of thing before. It used to be a, Zanio and Zymol argument. Which wax was better? They were both waxes. They were super hard waxes. They're super expensive, and they lasted the same amount of time. It was just personal preference. Now we have these really reactive resins that you can put a little bit in, and it'll coat glass, chrome, paint, plastic, all in one.
The innovation in the material science
Yep.
is allowing things to be done a lot easier. Once again, I go back to what you said earlier, forgiving. It's easier to do. It's more forgiving. It's just making things easier for people, more accessible to a lot more people.
I feel
And that's where you're getting the same performance you did, but it's just a lot easier for everybody.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of times with the products that I'm using, people would assume because I'm a professional detailer that I'm using products that are extremely difficult for them to do at home. It's just that I have the time to do it.
Right.
And I've invested the
You
money
take the
in
time,
the
yeah.
training and things
And the
like that.
know-how.
But it's
yeah.
really not that difficult. For me, when I see, I've tested, I don't even know how many coatings now, and they all just keep getting easier and
They
easier
get
to
more
apply.
durable and they get easier
And
and,
I feel like
easier
even-
to apply and maintain.
And
Yeah.
I feel like even some of the pro grade products out there that you have to be an authorized installer to try, they are seeing like, why are people going to spend $200 for coating
That's
that
right.
they're like,
Yeah.
this is so hard.
Yeah.
And I've got something that was $49 for a bottle. I may get a year or two out of it, but for something that easy,
Yeah.
I'll just do it every year versus
Yeah.
spending, $1,200 for a professional do it who literally is spending 12 to 15 hours applying it. I feel like there might be more value for this market than over here. And so for me as a professional detailer, I feel like I'm trying to educate and bridge that gap between, do I need to spend thousands of dollars on a product that's going to perform? It may last, I don't think I've ever seen a coating last more than 3.5 years.
Well, that's where the program, the licensing program, kind of like, you come back and get it refreshed every year
Yeah.
or whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because it's not going
It'll
to
last
last.
10 years as long as you come back.
As long as you
Yeah.
come back
Yeah.
every year or two and we redo it, it's going to last you, 5
But
to
then
10
when you
years.
have something like you're saying with your new hybrid ceramic,
Yeah.
it's going to be, maybe
It's gonna help. It's gonna
6
extend
months
that,
to
yeah.
12 months or so.
6 months, you can do a whole car in 15 or 20 minutes. I mean,
Yeah.
you just spray it and wipe it down.
So you're essentially eliminating me.
So
That's never going to happen
Yeah,
because,
no,
as
it's
you
never-
said, you got the know-how and you got the time, and that's still
Yeah.
we're
And-
making your job easier.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And you got
So
to make sure the car is super clean to get that longevity.
the prep. The
And
prep
not
is key.
People don't want to put that.
And that
work
is
in.
true.
You know.
We remove the contamination. We can
Correct.
polish the swirls and scratches out.
Right.
We can educate on proper maintenance and,
And
things
the
like that.
technique that
Versus,
you picked up over doing all those hundreds of coatings.
Yeah.
That's pretty priceless. You can't teach that through a YouTube video.
Yeah.
Like, somebody has to actually put their hands on a car
yeah.
and
Do it.
know what happens. Hey, you put too much pressure on this and you just burn off too much clear coat. Like, that's hard to teach through a video. You've done that forever. So your 15 minutes still might take somebody else an hour because you have that
So
technique
as a
just
chemist,
nailed down.
where do you guys look to for direction, or like, is there a magazine that you, or like, is there a
Lots.
school, or like, how do chemists know like what's coming down the pipe if you guys aren't the ones like out there just like mad scientists and like mixing all these things together? Like, how do you guys know what's coming? Like, who sets that?
Once again, we are doing a lot of that mixing that you're talking about. The mad scientist is so
That
that's the
wasn't a
research.
word, and I'm so sorry.
I like it. Though. I like it.
Mad
The
scientist
research,
thinking.
we do a lot of that, but it comes from our relationships with our suppliers because they're the guys who are, making the materials and coming up with the innovations. And because of the relationships that we have with them, the quick turnaround, we get those things, and then that's where their innovations, their thoughts get reduced to practice. They have an idea. Hey, this is a more durable resin, or this, might apply easier. We take it, put it into a formulation, and test it out and evaluate it and say, you know what, we were able to take that material and yes, we made a better product. So that's how we put it together. Magazines and everything, yeah, we're all over
Trade
with,
associations.
there's all kinds of industries, trade associations, coatings, magazines. A lot of this is coatings and understanding how coatings go on and the chemistry behind them. So
One of the things, the benefits that we're kind of a diverse company. So John and I are in car care all day, every day. Dr. Bob's serving 15 different markets. So when he's traveling to these shows in different kind of adjacent markets, certain industries are testing different things at different paces and are more advanced here. Ceramic coatings are new for cars. We've been using them in molding for decades. So there's things there. So when these guys are traveling to different trade shows, they're picking things up, bringing it back. Hey, what would be neat if we tried this on a car surface? And so we can get some kind of leaps and bounds on that from learning from different markets.
And like the ceramic, hey, we learned this with ceramic and mold release. I think we can apply some of that information over here to the car side. And once again, hopefully differentiate ourselves, make something that's a little better, as we say, faster, easier, more durable.
Is the chemical side of things just as cutthroat as the detailing side of things? Like, do you guys have a good community of chemists? I can't imagine that there's a whole lot, especially, I keep hearing from people, there's like 3 or 4 really big blenders, and that there are a lot of all these other kind of umbrella companies underneath of them, and,
Yes.
and people will say, my chemist, or my chemist, and I'm like, well, how many chemists are there really within the detailing industry? And, I know there's NDAs and proprietary blends and all of that, but I'm like, is it all one chemist that they're all just like working for this one mad guy,
No,
And
I
like,
think,
how much of it is, hey, I'm onto something new, or is it like, don't tell anybody? Is it
the
like
trade,
a really...
at least for us, the trade secret information that we have goes in our formulations. It's what allows us to stay in business. It's what puts us ahead of the competition. It's what differentiates us. So we work really hard to, keep that confidential. And
Is that the vault?
there's not many people. It looks like it, doesn't it? It's.
Now Chelsea, we can't let you leave.
I don't know the code.
Consumer packaged goods company from their R&D department talked to me one time. He said, we've been trying to knock off invisible glass for years and we can't. And he told me this. So that's what we face. We're an 80-year-old family-owned business, 100 employees. We all have families that are dependent on this business continuing to thrive and prosper. If we gave out all this information, we're not going to, again, out-advertise anybody because we're not a billion-dollar company. So those secrets are, we've got to hold on to them for dear life because they're that important. We can't share everything. It's not because we're hiding it from a health and safety environmental standpoint, but it's just, that's the secret sauce. That's what makes that product different.
I think a lot within the detailing industry, there's some people that they get consumed with the SDS sheets and like knowing everything that's within it, and then they get mad when it says proprietary blend,
Yeah.
and they're like, reveal what's really in my product, and how much SiO2 or how much of this or how much of that, and I'm like, all I really need to know is the pH value, like is it fire safe?
How to handle it? Is
if
this
it gets in my
going to
eyes,
harm me?
is it going to kill me?
Is this going to hurt my skin? Is this going to
Yeah,
harm my eyes? And we're going to tell you all that.
Yeah.
You don't need to know what the material. And we're not just keeping any information that's useful to you.
It's not that you're
It's
not
what
wanting to
allows us-
protect
right.
me. You're
We're
wanting
protecting
to protect
you 100%.
You want to protect me as far as
Yes.
physically, but there are certain
Sure.
things that I don't need to know because you're trying to protect you at the
We
same
have
time.
to protect our ability to stay in business.
And I can,
And
I think anyone can
most
respect
people
that.
should be able to respect
And
that.
I will
Yeah.
tell you,
So when it comes to product development,
Mhm.
where does it start? Here or there?
When you say there, you mean the lab or
In the
in
lab.
here? Well, it probably starts with maybe you, maybe
Yeah.
John, us. It's just, we take ideas from everywhere.
Yeah.
Probably
And
starts with the user, right? I mean,
It starts,
unless
yeah.
it's once in a while that, you know, some new material, you come and say, hey, we found this, the raw
Yeah.
material does this.
Right.
Do you think we can do anything with it? Yeah.
You know, it's an interesting thing. We we maintain these relationships with our suppliers, and we're always gathering in trade shows and magazines. We're always gathering information. So hopefully someday when we get a project, we try to go really fast, because the best project is you start it, you work on it, you get it done, and you get a product out there and you move on to the next. Not have a lot of things going at once, but we're gathering information. So hopefully when we come on an idea, we're like, you know what, this info that we have here that we had from a year ago, we can use that, and then we go really fast. So the ideas come from all over. We're constantly, you know, putting these cards together, evaluating cards. You know, we've got quite a few cards up there. They all represent a project. John Crothers maintains a list for the retail group. What do we have on there? 150 ideas?
20-some late
Ideas right now. We can't work on them all, but we've got the ideas there. And then we
Wow.
meet, I'd like to say we meet quarterly, but maybe not quite that often, and we review that list. Which ones do we want to move active off that list? Which ones do we want to take off? Which ones are we going to add? So we're constantly, it all begins with the innovation and the creative mind. And guess what? Those ideas can come from anybody, anywhere. We've had guys in the manufacturing say, you know what, I use this product and I saw this. Do you think you could? And it's like, hey, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
You know? So
That
you've
sign
got to
behind
capture
you says
those.
it all, too, though.
What's
The
that?
sign behind you says it all.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, you gotta capture those ideas and capitalize on them as you get time. Now we have a way of evaluating them, you know, for whether it's strategic fit, how hard it's going to be, risk, and you know, how much this is going to, how big of a problem is it going to solve, and we take that all into consideration for which ones we go forward with.
Yeah.
So how do you decide which ones you're going to work on? So, you know, part of it's what's the opportunity, how big of an opportunity. I mean, we could have a great idea, it's an unbelievable product, but 2 people in the world use it. Yeah, so that's probably not a good product to spend time on. So it's got to have an opportunity that's going to be valuable to the company. You know, we're solving a need. You know, are we differentiated, or is it just, you know, if we're just going to come to market with a Me Too product, well, you know, what's the chances of that really going anywhere? So, you know, we'll sit down and we'll have our discussions and, you know, challenge each other on it, you know.
There's so much to that. You know, once upon a time, and it's a strange example, we made a de-icer, and it was the best de-icer that was
I
ever
used it.
made.
I used
But-
it. It was an aerosol can.
Yes.
And you sprayed it on and
Yeah.
it melted the
Oh
ice
yeah,
away.
it was. I still have people saying, "Are you guys still making? Can you just do a run in the lab? I'd love that." But we just couldn't get it to catch on and to sell, and so
Yeah,
it went
some-
by
some-
late. So
some-
sometimes the best ideas don't
Market
actually.
driven.
Yeah.
You could have a
yeah.
great performing product, but because of the market and, you
The
know,
dynamics
competitors
and-
just
yeah.
issues, you know, and that was really the case with that product. So, you know, that goes back to not every great product gets on the shelf and sells, or
Yeah.
there's other things.
Some of the ones that are near and dear to the hearts of the guys that developed them, they just
We
don't.
probably all have
Your children
Oh.
die, you know.
Yeah.
And it's
We
it's
You
tough.
probably have like one can on a shelf somewhere that's like, no one use it because we're not making it anymore.
Every one of us has a case of probably something we did away with that we loved,
Yep.
and we, you know, grabbed a case before it went away because we knew we were going to.
Fabric
Yeah.
tech.
Say Fab-Protect.
Fabric-Tex is one that everyone loves.
Constantly.
Wait, what? You had a fabric protector?
We had a fabric protector we called Fab-Protects, and it was great. It worked great. My wife used it.
I was just gonna
It's
ask you
just
if you've got
it's the getting the placement and getting it sold, and you know, there's a lot that goes
Scott's
into
Guard
it.
is good.
Fluorinated
Right.
material had to be removed. We removed it. It still worked great, but it was just
Thumbs up
sales.
if you want to see it come back.